Hey, welcome. Today we're diving into a really cool story. It's about how a pretty simple, locally built tech solution fixed a problem that, let's be honest, tons of communities struggle with. Money that just seems to disappear. We're going to see how one town managed to plug a huge financial leak and turn it into a secure source of income.
I want you to imagine something for a second. Picture your town. It's busy, local businesses are thriving, everything looks great on the surface. But the money that should be going to fix roads, improve parks, fund schools, it's just not there. This isn't some made-up scenario. It was the actual, frustrating reality for one community. But they found a really clever way out.
All right, so our story takes us to Bulukumba, Indonesia. It's this beautiful place, a real hotspot for tourism. But, behind all that success, there was a huge problem hiding in plain sight. All the money coming in from hotels and tourism, it somehow wasn't making its way into the public budget. It was a serious puzzle, and they had to solve it, fast.
So what exactly was going wrong here? It clearly wasn't a lack of business, right? Nope, the problem was the system itself. It was just full of leaks. Let's really dig into how broken this whole thing was. Okay, let's just start with a number, because this really says it all. Before this new system came along, less than 60% of hotel taxpayers were actually compliant. Just let that sink in. That means almost half of the money that should have been collected was just gone. Not because business was bad, but because the process was just so clunky and old-fashioned.
And this really shows you the heart of the problem, right? On one hand, you've got the old, manual way of doing things. We're talking piles of complicated paperwork, super prone to human error, and frankly, it lacked any real transparency. It was a system just begging for revenue to leak out. But on the other hand, you have the goal, a simple digital future, easy reporting, automatic and accurate calculations, and total transparency. The whole idea was to go from this complete mess to something clean and secure.
So, they knew what the problem was, and what's really cool is that the local government didn't just go out and buy some expensive prepackaged software. Nope, they decided to build their own solution. So let's introduce the hero of this story, a system called MAPATO.
Okay, so what exactly is MAPATO? Well, the name stands for Management Pajak Terintegrated Automatic, which is basically just a fancy way of saying integrated automated tax management. But here's the really important part. It was built in-house. Yeah, by the government's very own IT team. This wasn't about shelling out big bucks for an outside company. It was about believing in their own people and owning the solution from the get-go.
And you've got to love how simple they made it. It's just 3 steps. Step 1, hotel owners just report their monthly revenue right in the app on their phone. Step 2, the system instantly does all the math, so there's no guesswork, no room for error. And step 3, they pay, right then and there, through the app. Seriously, no more standing in lines, no more wrestling with confusing forms. They basically took this massive bureaucratic headache and turned it into a simple tap and pay.
All right, so having a cool app is one thing, but did it actually work? Well, that's where things get really interesting. Let's look at the proof, because honestly, the numbers are kind of staggering. So remember that compliance rate? The one that was hovering below 60%? Well, the goal with MAPATO was to crank that number way up to over 85%. And it just goes to show, when you make a system that's fair, transparent, and super easy to use, you're not forcing people to comply, they're actually willing to participate.
And of course, what does higher compliance really mean? It means more money for the community. Simple as that. The projection was a 20% increase in regional revenue. That is a huge deal. That's money that can go straight into better roads, better public services, things that make a real difference in people's lives.
Now, this part is one of my favorite details of the whole story, how they actually paid for it. Get this, there were no big international loans, no massive outside grants. A full 85% of it came from their own regional budget. The other 15%, that was an in-kind contribution from a partner bank that handled the payment gateway. That's just a masterclass in how to do sustainable local development.
And this wasn't just some isolated local win. It actually has much bigger global relevance. This single project lines up perfectly with several of the big UN Sustainable Development Goals. Things like building transparent institutions, making sure tourism creates good jobs, and funding better cities. It's awesome proof that a smart local project can have a genuine world-class impact. Okay, so here's the really important part. This isn't just a fascinating story about one town in Indonesia. It's actually a powerful blueprint, a set of lessons that pretty much any city or town anywhere in the world can learn from.
So what are the big transferable insights here? Well, there are 3 that really stand out.
First, leadership is everything. You absolutely need that high-level political support to push through any resistance. Second, build, don't just buy. When you develop your own IT capacity, it's more sustainable and it saves a ton of money. And third, and I think this is just genius, is how they reframe the whole conversation. It wasn't about tax collection, it was about providing an ease of service. That's how you get people on board.
And this quote from the project team, man, it just sums the whole thing up perfectly. Digital transformation in local government is less about the software and more about the governance ecosystem. That's it, right there. The tech was just the tool. The real win came from fixing the whole system around it, the rules, the relationships, and the way people work together.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question. The story of MAPATO really shows that you don't always need some massive billion-dollar project to make a huge difference. Sometimes all it takes is one smart, small, digital fix. So think about it. What's a little leak in your community that a little bit of innovation could solve? Thanks so much for tuning in.